Hey, you guys. Movie retrospective time. Doing another Stephen King adaptation. This one overwhelmingly won the Patreon poll, and it's easy to see why. I had actually seen this movie probably several years ago. I think I saw it when it came out. I didn't see it in the theater or anything like that. It came out in 1992. But I saw it a few years ago, and I remember I was like, wow, that's pretty bad or is pretty like ridiculous or whatever. But when I rewatched it for this, I was like, wait a minute, this is terrible, but also kind of awesome. This movie is batshit insane. It is batshit insane. I mean, seriously.
Yeah, I guess you could say it is. I just got done watching it. It's kind of standard for the time. It's just kind of mediocre in certain ways. The acting is pretty cheesy. The dialogue's terrible. A bunch of fucking implausible shit happens in it. But it's Stephen King, and I can really see his writing in it.
Oh yeah, big time.
That's the way some of his books are. If you were to see it directly from those pages onto a movie, this is what it would be. It's entertaining.
I will give it that.
Yeah, it's entertaining. It's kind of like basically a fucking vampire movie, but it's really about like werecats, I guess.
Yeah, I guess they're kind of like werecats. They're werecats that can actually be killed by regular ass domestic cats.
Yeah.
And actually, the hero and best character in this movie is a hero cat.
Yeah, there's
Clovis.
It's about this boy and his mom. They're werecats, and they're in this fucking incestuous relationship because they think they're the last of them. And
or maybe that's just the excuse they use. Maybe they just like bonking one another.
Yeah, they're immortal, aren't they? I was under the impression.
See, I'm not entirely sure. There's a lot about the lore of these sleepwalkers, which I'm not really sure why they're called sleepwalkers.
That didn't make any sense.
Like I said, did he get that confused with skinwalkers? Because these are kind of more like skinwalkers.
More like skinwalkers.
Because they're like shape-shifting monsters, right? They're and kind of like vampires, but they're kind of like life force sucking vampires, but the only life force that is nourishing for them apparently is from female virgins.
Yeah, and I think they try to tie it back to ancient Egypt in the very beginning. Didn't they have like the ancient Egyptian Aztec type stuff?
I think they kind of made like a lame attempt to to hook it up with
never really got into that. They just and then like it's kind of like also a little bit like fucking cat people. Remember how there was an incest thing going on in cat people?
Yeah, I was thinking about that.
So it's kind of, you can see there's some inspiration there, I think, and kind of a lame attempt. They tried to cobble this together into some kind of a monster lore. It didn't really work. No, though, I wouldn't say no. It didn't really work in terms of like, what kind of monster is this? We don't fucking know.
Well, like I said, it's essentially a werecat, but
it's then a werecat vampire.
When you see them in their final form, it kind of looks more like a weird Sleestacky type of thing.
Godzilla, maybe?
Like it looks more reptilian. I'm like, that's not reading as a cat to me.
No. It looked like a Toho fucking monster, something that should be fighting Godzilla at the very end. Some of the practical effects are pretty good for the time. Other ones are kind of questionable. But like I said, the movie is already so fucking bizarre. It's already going out there so far. You don't really give a shit that it's got shitty effects.
I mean, the CGI is awful. But I mean, a lot of the CGI from 1992 was kind of awful. Yeah. But I think even by 1992 standards, the face morphing particularly. I mean, this wasn't... I think this movie cost, what, $15 million? I think it cost $15 million dollars to
back
make.
In those days.
Yeah.
With all the corruption and fucking all the fucking money laundering that was going on, $15 million was pretty fucking nothing. But I'll tell you one thing, you know, from 92, this would have been a movie that you basically rented from the fucking VHS, from Blockbuster. You get this from Blockbuster or Showtime Video. You and your buddies are about half drunk anyway, and you're just looking at the cute girls.
Yeah.
And you're in high school. That's.
I kind of feel like Mansion Amick, who was in this and was was big at this time because she was in Twin Peaks as well in the show.
That was the mom.
So no, that was the girl. Okay. The mom is Alice Kriege. She was in Ghost Story and she's the Borg Queen.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
The Borg Queen. She was hot.
So So in that sense, you could be like, well, you know, that's his mom, but still.
Oh, dude, man. This is teenage boy fantasy horror shit. Not all that shit. They're just supposed to be weirded out, and they're just supposed to go, yeah, she's pretty hot. That's it.
If my mom was that hot, I'd hit her.
I'd bang your mom. I did bang your mom. shit like that. You know, all that Bill and Ted shit. Fucking, some of my listeners know what we're talking about. Me and Steve used to play that game all the time. My buddy Steve coming to high school, he'd fucking, you know I banged your mom, right? He's like, dude, did you do that? Hey, man, you're bullshitting me. Yeah, well, yeah. Sometimes I thought he was...
Or am I?
Yeah, sometimes I thought he was telling me the truth. But I was like, dude, you didn't do that. And I got back at him, though. I kept saying I was going to fuck his sister. And then he'd go, dude, don't, that's my sister. That's my mom.
Well, then he'd get all like...
Yeah, he'd get all butthurt. So it's okay to fuck...
Is it, yeah, as long as you're like saying about her mom. But yeah,
right,
so...
Yeah. He tried to play those games. It's all games boys play.
But so there is a lot of incest in this. Interestingly enough, so this was directed by Mick Garris, and he went on to helm many Stephen King adaptations. Yeah. He did the original TV series The Stand. He did that Shining adaptation, the TV one that you like so much that I don't like.
Yeah, look, I'm gonna see. I liked it so much. She tries to put words in my mouth like I'm saying that shit was a masterpiece. You know, it is not what that was. The fucking Kubrick's is a masterpiece, and it is true to the story. That's what Wendy would have saw. Nobody else. Okay. The television one wasn't it wasn't bad for TV. It wasn't bad for TV. It's about like the old fucking Stand. That was also TV, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
It's just that was more complete. That was pretty much verbatim the book.
Yeah, which, like I said, and I've said this before, I think that's why it didn't work. Yeah. But
which The Shining would not make a good movie if it was verbatim, or it wouldn't make a good series either.
Yeah,
if it was verbatim from the book, it would not make a good.
Like I said, and that's no shit on that because I love that book.
It's a great book, but that's not.
And
movieable.
I love Kubrick's movie.
Kubrick movied the fuck out of that book. You cannot do any better than that. If you put all the details from the book in the movie, it spoils itself.
Yeah.
And you end up with the TV series.
Yeah.
If you want to see the book on TV, see the TV series, that's what the book is.
Yeah, because it's very, very literal.
Oh, yeah, it's literal. Yeah.
And like I said, that's why I think it doesn't work.
It doesn't work, no.
Well, since we're talking about Sleepwalkers, since we're talking about cat people, Pookie is over there right now pulling
Pookie,
all of the books off.
She's like, I'm on the show too. Fuck your books.
Fuck your books. Yeah, she pulls them all out and makes like she's very busy over there. She's just like, doo-doo-doo. But so we have Mick Garris. This was actually the first Stephen King adaptation that he directed. Prior to this, he had done Critters 2. And he did Psycho 4, which I'm not going to shit on because I actually like that movie.
Yeah, also
a lot of incest going on in that movie.
Yeah, shout out.
So interesting.
Shout out. A listener sent us a fucking compilate, all 4 of those movies, the whole collection, and every one of those movies is good.
I like all of the Psycho movies.
It's a solid series.
But yeah, but I will say that Mick Garris. Even though, and he did some like Stephen King adaptations later on, like I said, he did Riding the Bullet, which was okay, and he did like a bunch of other ones, but he was also the creator of Masters of Horror, although I will note that the 2 or 3 episodes of Masters of Horror that Mick Garris directed were like my least favorite ones, so, stop it, Pokey. She's not gonna stop it.
Yeah, get that shit off camera.
We'll pick it up and put it over there.
No.
She's like keep pulling all this stuff out.
Yeah, and then she knows I'm saying no, and she's like, I don't care.
She's like, I don't care.
She looks back, I don't care.
And this was also the first Stephen King movie that was just based on. I mean, Stephen King just wrote the screenplay. This wasn't based on like an existing property of his. I think he had originally written this as kind of like. An unpublished short story, but then he was like, no, I'm just gonna go straight screenplay with this. So he actually wrote this for the screen. This wasn't based on something that he had really written prior. So this is kind of like, this is after Maximum Overdrive, his directorial debut, on which he has said on many occasions that they were all so coked up on that movie that they are amazed that they even got it done. That one is also kind of batshit crazy and so bad it's good. This one actually might be crazier just because the concept of it and some of the stuff that happens in it is just so nuts. And it's the weird thing about this movie is that it's really, the tone of it is very strange because it kind of starts out with, you have this opening scene, which is actually kind of creepy, where you have two cops, one of whom is played by an uncredited Mark Hamill.
Yeah, I noticed that.
With a big, brushy-ass mustache.
Yeah, I waited for his names to be in the credits. It never was in the
No,
credits.
he was just in this. He's like, he's in it for like 2 minutes.
Yeah.
But yeah. So they come across this seemingly abandoned house with all of these dead cats, like, hanging outside, which... Those were actual real dead cats. They obviously didn't kill them for the movie, but they got them from the pound. Yeah. And so, there's a lot of like cat death in this one, which really kind of bothers me. Even though, like I said, the cats are kind of the heroes of this, much like in Cat's Eye. Now that I'm thinking about it, the also Stephen King movie, where General was kind of a hero too. But so it's a great opening scene where these two cops, they see all these dead cats, and then they go in the house. There's the obligatory cat jump scare where like a live cat jumps out of a closet or whatever. Yeah, and then it's the law. You have to have that in your 80s or 90s horror movie.
Somebody threw that fucking
What's
cat.
that noise? I know.
Somebody threw that cat.
There's like little interns around this, and I picture that like every time I see a horror movie like that has a jump scare. It's like, woo! Yeah. The kitty's like, oh my god! What's happening?
Cat's not jumping, it was thrown.
I'm airborne. But yeah, so there's a cat jump scare, and then there's a desiccated dead body jump scare. Like this body, I don't know if like before the werecats like left this house, they spring loaded this dead body to like pop because of like a joke or something. Yeah. Because it's like basically they open the thing and like the dead body pops out. The body also screams. Did you hear that?
Yeah, I guess it did. I think they were trying to get people in the audience to fucking scream. You have to understand that during this era, and what I'm going to say is totally true, because I grew up during this era. We were watching these things, like renting these videos. Horror movies of this era, especially the cheaper ones, were basically haunted houses that you watched on television.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
You weren't supposed to think too much about it.
You weren't supposed to think much about it. It's like going through the haunted house. Yeah.
It's like nothing really had to make much narrative sense. As long as you kind of had something to string together.
Yeah,
like
just
the
going
scenes
through the ride.
Between the monster attacks and the gore and stuff like that, you were probably golden. But yeah, so they kind of open with that, and that opening scene was supposed to take place in California somewhere. After which we jump forward to Travis, Indiana. That's where it's supposed to be, even though it's clearly still California, because I'm pretty sure Indiana doesn't have big mountains in it like that. But you know what I mean. Okay, I don't know why they didn't just make it another town in California, but whatever. So now they're in Indiana. So Charles, the werecat son, and Mary, the werecat mom, have moved to this new town because I guess the whole thing is that they're like nomadic, right? So you're led to believe that these are the last two of whatever the hell species this is. All the other ones have been wiped out, presumably by house cats, like over the history of the world, because house cats are like their mortal enemies, right? So these are the only two around, and I'm not even sure if this is gone into like in movie universe or if I just know this because I read like the Wikipedia page about it. But what they do is that only the males of the species can go after human virgin women, girls, and suck out their life force, and then they have to have sex with the female werecats to pass on the essence, which seems very convoluted to me.
Yeah, it's a strange thing. So he has to feed his mom. By killing virgins and then he has sex with her.
And then I guess like the virgin life force like shoots out his dick or something.
It's just like in Cat People. Did you know this was like Cat People?
It is like a lot like Cat People.
Cat people had to have sex with each other in order to regain human form, or was it the way around? Yeah, to regain human form, you had to kill a person. And then it was you killed a person. If you had sex,
you turned into a cat. Yeah, I remember that.
And you had to kill a human being to turn him back into a human. That's how that went. So it's
I'd forgotten
it's a play
about
on
that.
The only time you in Cat People, a cat person could have sex and not turn into a cat is when they had sex with another cat people.
And how often does that happen?
Right, and most of these cat people were related to each other.
Yeah.
So, dude was like banging his sister.
Yeah, so...
But his sister was Natasha Kinski.
Yeah, and again, like I said, it's creepy and weird, like, don't have sex with your mom, you guys, but If your mom looks like Alice Kriege, then okay.
No, it's still against.
It's still
against.
Still you shouldn't.
No, I think it's still against instinct to do that.
It generally is, unless you're a freak.
Yeah, it's against your instinct to do that.
But yeah, so even though presumably these are the last two of the species,
these are cats, though. I don't think that's against their instincts. So that's the thing.
That's true, because cats they're not humans. They're not super picky.
Yeah, you got to. So that's the thing you got to remember when you watch this movie. They're talking about they're getting all incestuous shit, but they're not humans, not even close. They're these cats.
Well, yeah, if that's the way you want to excuse it. But I'm just saying, if incest in movies bothers you, there's a lot of incest in it. And it's like, you know what I mean? A lot. And like I said, even though you're kind of led to believe that these are the last two of the species, and he's like, oh, my magic dick has to, like, shoot the virgin soul juice, like, into you, I guess.
Yeah.
But despite that, they don't really seem, they seem pretty, like, jazzed about doing it.
No, they're into it.
Yeah, they're super into it.
But like I'm saying, they're not humans.
Yeah.
They're another species, so it doesn't really.
So it's not gross.
It's been no, it was written to weird you out.
Yeah,
it was written to be weird as fuck, but it wasn't weird to them. They weren't humans.
Yeah, that's true.
You're right.
Another weird thing that it tries to do. Okay, so the first part of this movie, like I said, is kind of like your standard, 80s, 90s horror movie kind of thing. And it's pretty effective, like, as far as it goes. Like I said, they kind of weird you out with the incest thing. They've creeped you out with, like, all the dead cats and the desiccated corpse and everything like that. So then you're led to believe at first that Charles, who goes to the new high school or whatever, and goes after, the first scene where they establish that he's after this girl Tanya, played by Madchen Amick, however you pronounce her name. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing it right, but yeah. But so he's like looking at her, like mooning at her in the yearbook, and then like carving a T into his arm as one does. Ooh. And so they're almost trying to set it up like he's actually going to fall in love with this girl, and then there's going to be like conflict with his mom, because mom is like, no, we need to eat her, and then he's like, no, mom, I love her. That's how you think that it's going to go, because they kind of set it up.
That's how they set it up.
They kind of set it up like these are sympathetic monsters, right? Because the fucking Charles, Brian, who's played by Brian Krause, by the way, is up in front of class, like, telling a story about these sleepwalkers, and it's how, they're lonely and everything like that. And so it's almost kind of like they're trying to set it up like one of the old Universal monster movies where it's a monster, but you're supposed to, like, feel bad for them. But then that's what I'm saying about this being tonally strange, is that they kind of set it up like that, which might have made an interesting story, actually. Not super original, but to kind of feeling sorry for the monster, and he, like, actually falls in love with the girl they're supposed to eat and blah, blah, blah. But it doesn't really do that, because it kind of sets it up like that. But then there's a scene where he goes out on his first date with Tanya. Like, they go to the cemetery and they're doing grave rubbings and taking pictures and everything like that.
Rubbing, he's in the grave.
Yeah. Well, of course they make that joke too. It's like, your mom will want to know there's been some rubbing going on. You know what I mean? So yeah, there's that. So after that, like, at that scene, he just goes totally into, like, monster Freddy Krueger in the later Nightmare on Elm Street, I'm going to make jokes about everything role. So he's, like, totally not sympathetic at all. So it's, like, really strange. Because I kind of feel like that one scene, although I have to say that I think there's a scene before that where there's, like, this big car chase, because it was, like, the 80s, 90s, you had to have a car chase in your movie. It was the law, just like a cat jump scare. So they have this big car chase, and at some point, Charles gets pulled over by one of his teachers at school, who's played by Glenn Shaddix, who played Otho in Beetlejuice. And basically the teacher is like, hey, I know you're not who you say you are because your records are faked and everything like that. But he's like, but I won't tell anybody if you let me touch your dick or whatever. Like, he's a pervert, right?
Yeah.
And then at that point, like, Charles just rips his hand off and is basically like, yeah, you should keep your hands to yourself. Here's yours. So it's like, so from then on, it goes into this, like, cheesy, quippy, gory kind of, that's what I mean about it being it seems like the tone like switches on a dime.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they're trying to set it up like a sympathetic monster type of thing. Like, oh, this mother and son, they're the only ones left of their kind, and it's like they have to eat virgins, and it's like they're gonna be all like fucking upset, or like more of a sympathetic vampire story. But then like right in the middle, it's almost kind of like it goes creak, and like comes to a halt, and then it's like, and then he just starts making all these dumb, like killing people and making all these dumb jokes about it.
Yeah, you know what? Having lived through this time, I saw this movie back, when it was newer, and it didn't really stand out to us. They did this kind of shit back in '92.
True.
All right. And it was just because people didn't take these movies seriously. They were just entertainment. And I can't describe what it was like to see these back then. You just kind of expected shit to go sideways. It started going sideways, and you were just entertained. And then you quickly forgot about the movie.
I mean,
they didn't take themselves very seriously.
I kind of wonder sometimes, because at times this almost seems like it's trying to be a comedy.
Like a comedy.
Like there's like a lot of slapstick, and like I said, there's a lot of like cheesy one-liners and stuff like that. But then at the beginning, it almost seems like it's trying to be serious.
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with the censorship of the time. I think if they, back in those days, if you lightened the mood,
you could get away with a lot more.
You could get away with a lot more earlier. Like maybe they were trying to kind of atone for the fucking incest angle of the early part of the movie, and then they started going wacky with it. They go, oh well, it's just a comedy.
Yeah.
So they were going, okay, so we'll give you more leeway with this and this and that, because this was not a serious movie. And I always kind of thought that maybe that's what they were doing.
You might be onto something there.
They were trying to kind of diffuse the movie's dark side. Is what they were trying to do.
Yeah, because I mean, even
they're trying to get a PG-13 rating or something.
I'm pretty sure this was R. But I mean, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure this was.
They were probably trying to avoid an X rating, or
maybe
not getting an R rating.
Although this isn't super gory. I mean, there's some gore in it.
Incest angle.
But the incest would have been a little bit.
They had to do something to lighten the movie up, I think.
So yeah, about 15 minutes in, they're like, never mind, it's a comedy.
Right, and they're like, Freddy Krueger made good movie. Yeah, we'll just do like Freddy Krueger. Yeah.
Yeah, that shit was funny. Like the first one wasn't funny, but like the later ones, like they just, I kind of felt like it went. And I know that like the 80s and the early 90s was kind of like the heyday of like the horror comedy. And like you said, I think that if there was a lot of humor in it, you could get away with a lot more fucked up shit than you would in a serious horror movie.
I remember seeing these movies as they were coming out. We were renting them, and it was kind of like one was building upon another and riffing off another and another. So these guys were all making these movies, knew about the other movies being made, and it was just in style of the day to do dumb shit like this movie did. It would have been like, okay, they're just upping it a little bit over what happened last year with the fucking horror movies. So they're just building on a trend. You know what I mean? And the trend was at this time to kind of fucking jump the shark. Jumping the shark was the trend. And the movie jumps this fucking shark. The whole second half of the movie's a shark jump. As soon as the cop shows up with Clovis, the cat, and he's talking, wherever he goes, he's got it's jumping the shark.
Yeah, it's just completely ridiculous.
Cops don't patrol with a cat in the car. They just don't.
But I will say that Clovis the cat, the attack cat, that's what he says on his collar, is my favorite character in this movie.
So, this movie's jumping the fucking shark. The whole fucking...
But it's almost kind of like I said, it's almost kind of like... I've read some reviews of this that said, I think maybe Stephen King was like trolling us, or he was just like trying to like make... Because look at Maximum Overdrive, for Christ's sake. I mean, I know he was coked up during this. He's probably coked up during this one, too.
Yeah.
But... This, like I said, if the whole movie had just been zany from the outset, then I don't know, then maybe this wouldn't have been, because I don't know if this movie's like completely forgotten, but this seems like a really divisive movie, rather. How you feel about it, it's like, just go into this knowing that it's batshit crazy and it's completely ridiculous, and you will probably have a really good time with it, you know what I mean? Because it's just some crazy shit happens in this. So like I said, once the cop shows up, and the cop is like, the cop's hilarious. I love the cop too. Because he's just like driving down the street like in his police car, singing these weird ass songs about people with one ball and.
That was actually he was singing a cover song. I remember hearing that song on Dr. Demento. Dr. Demento would play that shit.
It's just like, it's so fucking
strange.
strange.
To the rodeo.
Yeah. He's just like singing.
Yeah.
And Clovis, the attack cat, is like sitting in the passenger seat. So like I said, you know, after this whole shit happens, so there's like a big car chase where he's chasing the werecat man, Charles. And, oh, by the way, the werecats, for some reason, can also change their cars into other cars and can also make their cars and themselves invisible.
Yeah.
So, you know, so
Just
there's
cause.
that. So there's that.
Just cause.
And also you can, like, wound them. You can shoot them. You can, like, stick shit in their eyeballs or whatever. But it doesn't even faze them. However, they are terrified of cats.
Yeah.
So when the cop car pulls up, you know, next to Charles's magical changing car, and the little Clovis peeks up over the thing and is like, "Hey, buddy, I know your number." He's like, "Oh, a cat!" Ah! Yeah. And then his face does that like crazy like CGI morphing thing, which is
terrible.
Which I don't even know. Like, it's like for a second, it's like a little kid, and then it's like a like Godzilla thing, a slee stack monster thing.
Looked like Pulgasario.
Like
The North Korean guy.
I said it doesn't look anything like a cat. Fun fact, I found this out from Minty Comedic Arts, was that initially, if you guys saw like the also terrible adaptation of the Tommyknockers, and you know the aliens at the end of that? Okay, the aliens at the end of the Tommyknockers, that's what the cat people in this movie were supposed to look like. But they didn't get to finish because they were like rushed or they didn't have enough money or whatever. So they just kind of went a little part of the way with it. So I was like, well, like I said, so they do actually read more like reptilian alien than cat people to me. Maybe they didn't want to make them look like werewolves because I was like, they don't even have any fur. I don't.
You know, all I can say is to say I don't have any explanation for any of this.
I don't have the explanation.
I remember.
I don't need an explanation. It's fun. It's a fun, entertaining, crazy ass movie.
I remember 1992. I remember the market at the time. I was in the army. We were watching this shit on VHS, fucking in the day room and shit. Probably deployed somewhere. And this would have gone pretty much along with other movies at the time. This movie is doing the shit that it had to do to be noticed and survived in its niche, in its budget. You know what I mean? In the market. It's just trying to stay afloat in the market. It wouldn't have stood out that much at the time. At the time there was a lot of fucking zany ass movies. Like I said, this is just part of a trend.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I remember this movie and it didn't really stand out as being like a bad movie. It was just another one. There was a lot.
I remember, like I said, I remember seeing it back in the 90s and sort of being like, that was kind of terrible.
Yeah.
But then...
there's a lot of them like that, though.
And then kind of... I didn't even remember a lot of the crazy shit that happened in it, so when I rewatched it again, I was like, wow, that was like much crazier than I remembered it being.
Yeah.
But, you know what I mean? But in a fun way, like I said. But how you feel about it... how you're going to feel about it is... You know, you have to like manage your expectations. This is kind of one of those movies that it's like super fun to like get together with your friends and like have some drinks. And every time some batshit crazy stuff happens, then, you know, every time a cop gets stabbed in the back and killed with an ear of corn.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which happens in the movie. Every time Hellboy gets his fingers bitten off and then his arm broken and himself elbowed in the face with his broken arm. Also take a shot. Also, I want to say, too, there's a shit ton. I mean, this has, like, some famous... This Ron Perlman is in this shit. Yeah. Like I said, Mark Hamill did an uncredited cameo.
Yeah.
There are... Ferris Bueller's parents are Madchen Amick's parents in this movie. Because apparently they were a couple in real life. I guess they met on Ferris Bueller and then got married. And then they were a married couple in this one, too. So they were, like, the mom and dad. Also, a shit ton... of horror directors turn up in this in one scene. Stephen King is in it because, of course, he is. He cameos in all his stuff because he thinks he's Alfred Hitchcock or some shit, or Stan Lee or whatever.
He also thinks he could act.
Well, meteor shit. Although I loved him in that, I gotta say.
Yeah, that was
his best role. But yeah, so in this, he's literally in one scene. He plays like the guy that's supposed to is like the graveyard keeper, like where the attack happens. So he's just like, it's not my fault, that kind of thing. And then in this scene, I had totally forgotten about this. So he's talking to somebody. So he's talking about who I'm presuming are like the crime scene detectives. And I'm like, that's motherfucking Clive Barker. Clive Barker is in that shot. He's one of the crime scene detectives. Toby Hooper is one of the crime scene detectives. And then later on, when there's another scene with cops or technicians or whatever, there's fucking what's his name, John Landis, and fucking not Wes Craven. Who's the other one? Joe Dante. So there's a shit ton, and so like I said, you can tell that like Stephen King and Mick Garris were just kind of like, shit, man, we're gonna put everybody in this movie. We're just gonna put all these fucking cameos in there, and it's just going to be hilarious. So I kind of feel like they were all just like snorting coke and having a good time.
Yeah, they were just trying to get the shit done. Hey, man's being in a movie. Yeah, let's get the movie done. And they were just trying to make it a fun movie towards the end. Yeah, let's spice it up some.
Let's have Alice Kriege get attacked by cats, and then all the cats biting her somehow sets her on fire. And also, she takes one of the cops' guns and shoots the cop cars, and the cars blow up from one shot. Yeah. And then like a cop comes out and he's on fire and he's rolling. It's crazy. It's crazy. Crazy shit happens in this fucking movie.
Like I said, the movie was jumping the shark anyway. It had jumped the shark fucking 20 minutes into it. So they just fucking had fun with it.
Can we talk too about when the cop gets killed, the cop that owns Clovis the cat, which is kind of sad because Clovis then kind of like sits on his chest like, oh man, and I was like, oh, that's so sad. But so he gets killed by, well, initially Charles sticks a pencil in his ear and he falls over, and then Charles, who's kind of like half cat people face, he's got like the appliances on his face, and then he kind of like leans into the cop car window where Tanya is and says the immortal line, "Cop kebab."
Yeah.
In the same tone of voice that the dude from Silent Night, Deadly Night 2 says, "Garbage day." It's just kind of that same kind of vibe. Yeah. Oh my God, I fucking love it. So yeah, cop kebab. So yeah, that cop gets killed. But I don't know why I was watching like the Nostalgia Critic, and he did a half an hour thing on this, and it was like super super funny. And he was talking. He's like, okay, so they had like the pencil in the ear, and then he said cop kebab. So when the cop later on who can't shoot for shit, he's like shooting like that, and then he's like, he's like that, and then he gets stabbed in the back with a corn cob. He's like, why did nobody say corn on the cop? He's like that would have been like, he's like, he wanted a shirt that said that. I was like, oh my God, that would have been like super funny.
It was the era of one-liners.
It was, yeah.
Arnold started all that shit, "I'll be back," and all that weird shit, fucking, and there's, every time something happens, you have to fucking, I think the action movie, horror movies started to do that.
Well, yeah, because like I said, the Nightmare on Elm Street movies, like starting with the second one, but the third one, it kind of really went off the rails.
Yeah, that was the trend that they would do that kind of shit. You're supposed to laugh because, they were just constantly fucking, it was kind of like throwing back to other movies. Everybody trying to top the other movie that came. You look at it now and it's just cringy as fuck. But
it really is.
That was just the way they did things back then.
Because after
not everything was good of that era. Not everything was good.
Yeah, and we're saying that as like people that grew up during that. I mean, when this movie came out, how old was I when this came out? I was 20 when this came out. Like I said, I don't know if did I see this in the theater? I doubt it. I doubt I would have seen this in the theater, but I'm pretty sure I saw it on cable like a little bit later on. Because even in 1992, I was a little bit leery of like Stephen King's anything. You know what I mean? Like if he was involved in a movie, I'd be like, do I really want to pay my hard-earned money to see that?
By the time
probably not.
By the time 92 had rolled around, fucking for the most part, Stephen King movies were to be avoided unless you were to see it for free or something. You're renting it from a video.
Or like I said, unless it was just fantastically terrible, like Maximum Overdrive, which you still haven't seen yet. That movie is also batshit insane. Yeah. And you can tell that everyone involved was coked out of their gourds.
There's some good ones. But a lot of bad ones. A lot of bad ones.
But, you know, like I said, he's written so much that it's kind of like, it's hard to shit on him too much. If he's directly involved with writing the screenplay or directing, then you proceed with caution. Because I can't really think of a good one that he was, like, intimately involved with.
Yeah.
He needs somebody else to adapt his stuff.
Best one's The Shining, and then fucking Carrie, the first Carrie, and then Christine.
And Dead Zone.
Dead Zone, yeah.
Misery. There's a lot of good ones. Yeah, there's a lot of good ones.
Firestarter. I'd put Dead Zone and Firestarter at about the same
But I'm just saying, if you have like a really good director and a really good writer who is willing to tell Stephen King, no, I'm a screenwriter, I know what I'm doing, you know, I'm going to change some of your shit around, then that's good. Just, like I said, don't let Stephen King not change anything about your screenplay. Because like I said, he's a very good writer, but he doesn't always know what works in a book and what works as opposed to what works in a movie, because it's two different things.
Yeah, and his dialogue just doesn't work for movies. It can work in a book.
Yeah, can I just say too that the quip that the werecat mom gives after stabbing the cop in the back with a corn cob, which kills him immediately, by the way, is she says something like, no vegetables, no dessert. Those are the rules. That's what she says. I'm pretty sure that's what the line is. Which makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. No sense. But yeah, like I said, so I will say that I liked the cat being the hero of this, and actually several cats, because for whatever reason, the werecats, their mortal enemy is domestic cats. So everywhere they go, they have like all these traps, you know, like little bear traps and shit, out in their yard to kill the cats, right? But the cats just kind of like sit in their yard, almost like they're biding their time. Like one of these, I don't know why the cats like waited through the whole movie, like before deciding, okay, now we're gonna. I guess they needed Clovis to come and like lead them or whatever, because Clovis is like the lead, and when he gets there, he's like, yeah, I'm gonna take these bitches out, and then he jumps on him, and like I said, so they basically die of like cat scratch fever, because the cats just jump on him and then scratch him, and then fire comes out of the scratches. And then, yeah, it's a crazy movie.
Another couple good Stephen King ones were made for TV. All right, I'd probably say the best of the made for TV would be Salem's Lot, the original. You can get that on DVD, maybe Blu-ray, but it's out there in DVD. I recommend that one. It's a good vampire movie.
Yeah, I love Salem's Lot. And
then right underneath that would be a made for TV series, The Stand.
Which is the same director as this.
Yeah, somebody sent us a kind of re-engineered, I think, Blu-ray version. Wasn't that a Blu-ray version of it?
Yeah.
And it was great. It was much better than the DVD version. The way they'd reformatted it and everything, it looked a lot better. Matter of fact, it looked a lot better than it did on television. If you saw it on television, which I did, I saw it on television, recorded it on VHS when it came out. It looked like shit. But the Blu-ray version was fucking a lot better. Cinematic, you can watch it. And then, probably coming in third would be the made-for-TV Shining. And like Jenny said, you're not talking about Kubrick. It's directly lifted out of the damn book.
I didn't love it.
And the acting is passable. The special effects are not that good. The makeup looks kind of crazy. The ghosts look like ghosts, and it's quite cheesy. But that's what the book, the dialogue and everything, the story, that's exactly what's out of the book. It's worth watching if you want to know what the book was like.
If you want to see what Stephen King's version of it looks like,
what it looked
because
like.
He was so mad at Kubrick,
right.
famously.
And it does explain a lot of the stuff that you see in the Kubrick movie. Because, you see, in the book, it gave more details about who those ghosts were that you see.
Yeah, like all the terrible shit that had happened at the hotel.
Right.
But like we've said, and we've talked about this a lot, is that I think it's scarier not knowing. Yeah. Because you wouldn't know.
And there's a bunch of stuff that happened between Danny and Tony, his imaginary friend, that's not in the movie. It's in the book, and it's in the Shining television series.
Yeah. But, like I said, I don't know.
Because Tony was Danny.
When he was older.
Yeah, in the future.
Yeah.
I guess.
Which, like I said, I kind of like... He's Super Danny.
It was Super Danny.
Super Danny.
Yeah.
But I like that Kubrick just pared it down to... Just what...
Because
to me, there are exceptions to this rule, obviously.
Yeah.
Horror is scarier when you don't know
everything.
When it's unexplained, when it's a mystery.
Yeah.
So I kind of feel like that's what, I mean, with this particular movie, Sleepwalkers, I think that either they should have made it just a straight comedy, because it ended up being a comedy anyway, whether that's what they intended or not. Or if they were going to go the serious route, don't explain what the monster is right from the beginning, because right from the very first shot is like a fake dictionary, like it's from like the dictionary of arcane knowledge or whatever. It's not real, but I mean, and they say, oh, these sleepwalkers, they're vampire cat werecats or whatever, and kind of explains a little bit about them, and then it says right there, they're vulnerable to domestic cat attacks. And so that's how they're going to end up dying at the end. I just feel like they should have just like not explained what they were, that they were monsters or anything. They should have just done it like they were people, and then it's like, oh, why are there dead cats? Why are they incestuous? Why this, that, and the other? And then later you could have done the reveal. I think because they came out and said what they were like right from the beginning, it takes a lot of the mystique away. And like I said, it didn't really end up mattering because it just went in like a straight up comedy direction anyway. But I'm just saying that the unknown is always scarier than over explaining things.
Yeah. What Kubrick had done was that in his version of The Shining, you only saw what Wendy saw and what she knew, and a little bit of what Jack Torrance knew from the bar scenes. Other than that, nothing about what Danny kind of knew. Or a little bit, but not much. And none of the stuff that was happening between the ghosts.
And like I said, to me, that would be way scarier, because that puts you in the same position. Like, what if I took this job at the hotel and that's what you saw, and you wouldn't know any of the stuff? You wouldn't know.
You wouldn't know the drama between all these
you'd ghosts. Just be like, what the fuck?
Or you didn't know anything. Wendy wouldn't have known anything about the fucking house was being ruled by a fucking ghost who was collecting souls and shit to add to their power. You wouldn't have known all that.
Yeah, it just would have been scary, and because randomness is scarier than Because if you can get a handle on something like by putting it in a box or defining it, then it's not scary anymore.
Yeah, and what was this hotel? Was this like Temple of Doom or something? Because it was built on ground that was consecrated by blood. So, they'd killed some Indians to build it. You know what I mean? And it was almost kind of like a temple of the fucking elites. Had to do with the fucking elite oligarchs, and human sacrifice is being talked about, basically. And the collection of souls and people dying on this ground, and it built a fucking evil place. The book is good. The book is really good.
It is, yeah.
And the television series is closer to the book. It's just you can't capture a book. You can't capture the tone of a book through a television series.
Particularly not in horror. I think, in other genres it's probably easier.
You can't get the creepiness.
Well, the thing about horror is that a lot of it depends on people's suspension of disbelief.
Yeah.
If you can't suspend your disbelief, then it's not scary.
Yeah.
And to suspend your disbelief, you have to at least have some kind of grounding in reality, or some kind of like way into, your reader or your viewer or whatever, or otherwise you're not going to be able to scare that person or get them involved.
Yeah, and if you liked The Shining, you should see the long director's cut of Dr. Sleep. It's about Danny. It was pretty good.
Yeah.
The theatrical release was okay, but that director's cut, which was a lot longer, what was that, 40 minutes longer?
I think so, yeah.
It was a lot better.
Interestingly, now that you bring up Dr. Sleep, that was also soul-sucking vampires.
Basically, yeah.
Which is kind of like the same thing as this. They weren't really well, they were kind of like monsters, but they just kind of looked like humans. But it's kind of the same thing. They're like sucking out people's life force.
The soul-sucking vampires were also kind of like the living versions of the ghosts that were sucking people's souls in The Shining, though, at the hotel. The hotel was kind of doing that. So it inferred, remember that? And that's in Dr. Sleep. So it's part of the same supernatural universe.
Yeah.
Not only can living creatures do that, evidently dead creatures, the undead can do that also. Ghosts.
Yeah. Ghosts. The thing about Sleepwalkers, though, is that I kind of feel like a good movie could be made from this. And I'm not saying that the movie that they did make is like pretty enjoyable, because like I said, it's batshit crazy and just like ridiculous shit happens in it, and you should just like let it wash over you because it's
a
hilarious.
Popcorn cash grab.
Yeah, it's a hilarious movie. Like I said, I don't know if they intended it to be hilarious. I kind of hope they did.
I think I think that's the only way they could have gone and made it fucking get the censorship that they needed, to get it past the censors, and make the fucking movie marketable. I think they had to do that.
And this just barely made twice its budget back. I think it cost about $15 million to make, and I think it made $28 million. It was actually when it opened at the theater, it was #1 the first week, and then like the week after that, it totally tanked.
Plumper, dude. It's that. Okay.
So even in 1992, people had standards. Well, and I'm just saying, I kind of feel like in 1992. Even though Mystery Science Theater had been around for a couple of years at that point, although it wasn't like a big national phenomenon or anything really, I kind of feel like even back then, I don't know if now there's, it's pretty mainstream, like people getting into like so bad it's good movies. But back then, there wasn't as much of that. You know what I'm saying? I just feel like it wasn't as much of a thing. Nowadays, it seems like the reviews I've read of this are either this movie is like so awful that it's awesome, like, just get drunk and watch it and it's fucking hilarious, or people think it's like the worst fucking turd ever. So there's no in between. No in between. And I read like a whole bunch of different reviews. Most people are on the side of this movie is so ridiculous that it's awesome. Which, I can see that. I can see that. There's a lot of famous people in this. There's a lot of like really funny like cameos, and just crazy fucking shit happens in it. It just goes balls to the wall.
This movie is a turd.
It is.
It's a shit fest. If you're in the right mood, you'll have a good time.
I had a good time.
If you're drunk and you're in the mood for it, you'd have a good time.
Yeah.
It's a piece of shit, though.
But it's entertaining.
It's a piece of shit.
It's not boring.
No, it's not boring.
So, I mean, the worst thing a movie can be is boring. And this is definitely not boring.
Yeah.
So I will give it that. So
it's got cute women in it.
Yeah.
If your girl's got a cute guy in it, he's a bad guy. It's got a little bit of everything. It's not to be taken seriously.
Yeah, just watch it like it's a comedy, because it is.
Yeah.
It's a comedy with a lot of gore and hero cats. And who doesn't love that? We love the hero cats.
It's just trying to entertain you.
Yeah. Well, like I said, it succeeded. Yeah. So So this is actually, if you want to watch it for free, you can watch it for free on Pluto.tv.
I recommend watching it for free.
Yeah, I mean,
see
you
that
can
shit on Pluto TV with commercials.
You can rent it. You can rent it for $2.99, I think, on Amazon. But like I said, if you can get Pluto TV, then just watch it on there because it's free. And there's just an ad every now and then. There's a bunch of Stephen King's other stuff on there too. I think Sometimes They Come Back is on there, which Mick Garris might have directed that one too, because I kind of feel like after this one, this was the first collaboration of theirs, but then after that, Mick Garris pretty much made an entire career out of adapting Stephen King's stuff. So he did a shit ton of them.
It's technically not a bad movie. I mean, it's got the edits are clean. It's a coherent movie. It has a little fucking soundtrack. It's that song, but it sounded really familiar. I've heard that before.
That song. Well, wait, which one? The Enya one or
it's Enya, I guess.
Yeah, it's Enya.
Yeah, they play a lot of that in it. So the score is okay. It's
strange
not
thing.
Obnoxious. Okay, it's competent. This is not an incompetent movie. It's the topic, the subject matter, the tone. It's fucking bizarre. But I think it's supposed to be.
Well, like I said, the thing that I thought was weird is that it seemed like it was trying to be serious at the beginning. And we're almost trying to have like, oh, these poor were creatures, they're the only two left in the world and they're lonely and everything like that. But then they just went, they just took a hard left and like went right into like crazy, no, they're just straight up villains and now we're just going to have all this wacky shit happen.
Might have happened in edit.
Perhaps. I'm not. Although, like I said, this came from Stephen King's script, and as far as I know, they didn't really change much of anything because that's why Stephen King wanted Mick Garris, because the two of them were like friends.
A lot of that tonal whiplash can be no more than you can just editing and fucking score.
Yeah,
can give you that. So it might have been modified to do that later.
This one, it had a weird like throwback kind of thing too, in the sense that everybody in it was like listening to songs from the 50s and 60s, even though it was supposedly the modern day. Which I thought
trying to give a nostalgia feel.
I guess, and Stephen King does that a lot in his stuff, because I guess he's really into setting stuff in the 50s and 60s. Yeah. And I thought maybe they were trying to, I mean, particularly with Charles, the werecat son, driving the older cars around, maybe they're trying to show that, you know, these werecats been around for a long time, and he likes certain things from the past or whatever. I thought that's kind of
50s monster movies.
Yeah, I kind of felt like they were
the
going for
werewolf
that.
movies and shit.
Yeah, I did see. Actually, I was watching one review that kind of compared it to I Was a Teenage Werewolf, like a little bit, which I guess it's not exactly like that, but I can see where they were going. But yeah, so as I said, if you want to have some drinks and have a good time and watch a cop get stabbed to death with corn on the cob, this is probably the only movie that you will ever see that in. I'm pretty confident saying that. I'm pretty confident.
It's fucking terrible.
Corn kill. But yeah, so it's on Pluto.tv for free. He got cornhole. See, there's another one. That was a perfectly good joke laying right there. They didn't even use it.
It might have been there. Maybe they took it out. So you can't say that.
You can't say cornhole. Yeah. We can show a mother and son fucking, but we can't say cornhole.
You can't say you got cornhole.
Even though he literally did.
Yeah.
Oh my God. All right. So yeah, it's on Pluto.tv. So have a few drinks, watch it, and get back to us like what you thought about it.
Don't watch this.
Seriously, watch it. It's hilarious. Watch it. It's hilarious. All right. So we will see you guys on the next one. Bye.